dare say no. And I'm like, you're conditioned. How, like in medical school, they do not teach these people nutrition past maybe a month. They teach you the pharmaceuticals and all of the chemicals that they've synthesized and the reactions with the body, because you can't patent nature.
No.
So because we can't patent that, we're going to extract, synthesize, and then we're going to wrap that up and put a price on it because America.
Well, it's hard to make money when you're talking about simplicity. You know, you have to make things complex to make money from it. So
of course.
If someone's selling you a complex thing, it's some BS.
Exactly.
It's a BS, right?
Exactly.
The simple things make you healthy, not the
more complicated, which is crazy, because something as simple as just water for the day, right? And allowing your body to fast. Like, there's times where people are like, no, I need to eat. I'm like, you don't really need to eat. Like, look at you. You really don't need to eat.
Look at you.
It's mind over matter. I mean, Jesus survived in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, bro. Could you do me a favor as well, though? Would you mind turning the TV on? Or no? No? Okay.
Start the whole fire conversation for the TV.
Well, it was...
So you're 8 minutes in. Amazing
well, we'll cut that. That's great. I didn't even realize. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, anyways.
Wait, I mean, I was trying to, though, for like a while.
Okay.
I can't even find it.
So there's this button that is like behind the TV.
I've been pressing that button.
Oh. Well, hold it.
Oh, you're supposed to hold
and let it go. There you go.
That did it?
It should be, because it's blinking.
Oh, look at that.
Thank you. Shout out to my engineer. Okay, so welcome to another episode of Lotus Talks. Today I have another special guest. Here is Lance. Lance, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people who you are, what you do.
Okay, my name is Lance Kearse, also known as Kaptainplantit. I apologize for that. I'm a health coach. I'm a health guy. You come to me for anything health, and I'll lead you in the right path.
Awesome. I know that you have an umbrella of things that you do as an entrepreneur. Yeah. So we know this journey. I mean, I met you once, and our interaction was very dynamic. Sea moss guy at the Coconut Grove Farmers Market,
that's what
right?
They call me. Yeah, I have a bunch of names. That's one of the names they call me.
That's funny. Yeah. So being able to take wellness into the world, create your businesses as an entrepreneur, I think this is fascinating. I think as a male especially, it's very powerful in the space that you are. I saw that you were in another panel or an event, right? And this was promoting men's health. Could you go ahead and talk about this panel and what your experience was like? Because this is the first time I've ever witnessed Miami doing something like this, or really highlighting, or it coming to light, which I thought was very important. So I'm curious to know what your experience was like. So,
the panel hasn't happened yet, right? It's Marvel Bishop. He's having a men's health panel. I won't be on the panel, but I'll be able to present my documentary trailer there and talk about my documentary.
Awesome.
So that's the part that I will be involved in.
Okay, so your documentary, and this is a documentary revolved around, I know that you were a basketball player, and you also are an advocate for sickle cell. How does that tie in, and what is it exactly in terms of your story?
Yeah. So oh man, wow. So my story, it's a deep one. It's a long one. We do not have enough time to talk about it. Right? It has so many different paths we can go down. But essentially, what it's about, my documentary, it's about me having sickle cell, not knowing that I had sickle cell. The team misdiagnosing me like twice. Well, 3 times. They misdiagnosed me 3 times. First, it was for Epstein-Barr. Didn't have that. A muscle myopathy, didn't have that. And the third one was for severe anxiety and depression. Didn't have that, right? The reason why they said it was severe anxiety and depression was because they said that they couldn't come up with what was going on with my body. So they were like, it must be a figment of your imagination. It can't be in your body. So they prescribed me that. I was cramping up a lot, had a bunch of pain, so they prescribed me Celebrex. Yeah,
That's intense.
A lot, yeah. So
I do have a question of how did they figure out what you had.
Yeah, so when we say they, we're talking about VCU, the MCV, the medical part of Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay.
They didn't find out that I had sickle cell. It's when I went to the next school, my sophomore year, second semester, the beginning of my second semester, the next school found out when they did a physical, and they were like, oh yeah, you have sickle cell trait.
Wow.
Right,
So did that other school not test you for like your blood work or anything? They didn't do the test?
Well, they did a lot of blood work.
Okay.
I used to get a lot of blood taken out of me before practices. I had a muscle biopsy. I still have it, the scar looked like a bullet wound. They did a lot, and they couldn't find it. And they say that's probably one of the first things that they should have tested for.
Yeah.
I don't know the procedures when it comes to sickle cell or whatnot, but I didn't know at birth, and I didn't know up until I was 19 years old. So I was suffering from something, and I knew it was something because I would cramp up. Well, in high school I would cramp up, get rushed to the hospital. My mom would rush me to the hospital sometimes. Uncontrollable cramps. I would throw up. I couldn't move sometimes. Pretty athletic. I'm pretty fast. Sometimes it was like half the speed or a quarter of the speed. Like I just couldn't move, right?
Wow.
And yeah, it was rough. It was rough. This whole time it was me thinking that I was just out of shape, but I really wasn't.
You're very resilient because just for your body and your experience to have even gone through, like, there's definitely a higher purpose there. And I love that you advocate and you share your story because it's important for people that do go through these things to understand, like, this is also a space where if you're not aware, like, go and check, especially for athletes. I mean, I don't know how many years ago that was, but that brought a lot of awareness, I'm sure now, and changed so many people's lives for the better. So that's very powerful.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm also the poster child for Division II basketball when it comes to sickle cell. I was the person that changed the rule that everyone had to be tested for sickle cell trait. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm known for as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you really did like fulfill this great purpose already just in that one experience where it was like kind of feeling defeating, but I guess it's just how God works, right?
Yeah, I guess, right?
That's interesting. So when you went on to your next college, what was that experience like with them? And then now you have understood you have sickle cell. Where did, after that diagnosis, that put you in terms of your journey there? Yeah,
well, it put all the pieces to the puzzle together. Like, I knew I had something. At the next school, they didn't hire a psychiatrist to force me to think that something was wrong with my brain. Like, they wasn't playing the mind games that the first school was using, right? They used so many things against me. I was 18, 19 years old.
Of course.
Easily susceptible to almost everything, right? You can tell me whatever. I would believe in it, but then it would get to a point where I would be like, nah, that can't be it. Like, I still feel it. I'm honest with myself, right? How some people lie to themselves. I wasn't lying to myself because the end goal was to make it to the NBA.
Of course. It
wasn't to go to college and fake like I'm cramping up. Like, who wants to do that? Like I'm
doing it for attention.
Exactly,
like, no,
right?
like
it's like
maybe you, but not me.
Exactly. And they knew my background. They know where I'm from. I'm not from the roughest. I'm not from the nicest part of the city, right? And my whole thing was to get out of the ghetto and do what I had to do, right? It was to make it. I wasn't coming to college to play around.
Yeah.
First semester, I was on Dean's List. I was in the hospital a lot. Like, I was still doing what I had to do in the class.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah. I wasn't necessarily the best on the court because I could only, practice a few minutes. Most of the practice I couldn't practice. But school was pretty easy to me. All I had to do was listen, do the work, turn it in, right? It's not that hard, right? Like, there's
very few of us that say that nowadays, I feel.
There's a threshold.
Yes,
there's a threshold of intelligence. You don't have to have the highest IQ.
No.
To get an A in school,
you just
gotta do it. Like, it's just effort.
You got the degree, right?
Effort, right?
C's get degrees too. That's what I'm saying. C's get degrees. I mean, I graduated with a good. But the same degree is no different than the person who got the shit done,
Yeah.
So.
But to answer your question that you asked in the beginning, when I went to the next school, they were the ones that figured out that I had sickle cell trait, so they put me on a bunch of different regimens. Like, they had me do IVs before games, oxygen tanks during the game. I couldn't practice most practices. I would, just like the first school, I couldn't practice. I was just playing games. I did pretty good. I became All-American, Division II All-American player of the conference, right? They would put me in the game for 4 minutes, pull me out. Put me in the game for 4 minutes, pull me out. Couldn't really catch my rhythm, but it was like, I don't care. As long as I'm out there, I'll figure it out, right? Cramped up a few times there. I would have to do, they would test my urine before games to see if I could play. And if it wasn't clear enough, it was too cloudy, I couldn't play.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was a lot that I had to go through, and it was fun. I still became one of the best players, even though I had time restrictions. But I'm a competitor. I'm going to compete with whoever, whenever, and whatever. Right? That's just how I operate.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone as too big of a challenge, or anything as too big of a challenge. But yeah, if it wasn't for that sack in school, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Most people didn't. They just wrote me off. They were like, well, he's just damaged goods.
Dismissed. Yeah.
Yeah, he was damaged goods. It was, the coach that removed me from the team in my first school. They paint you a bad guy so that they don't look bad.
Of course.
Right? It's like,
trust me, I've been there.
Yeah, it's like let me save my image by destroying that person's image.
Of course.
Right?
It's like one of the rules of power, right? So it's just like ego at that point. But I'm curious, did he ever reach out, or was there any interaction after everything, or any apology? Because that seems like it would deserve an apology.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, the only person to apologize to my face to face, man to man, was the psychologist.
Wow.
No one else. Face to face, no.
Well, because the psychologist was at their I guess their strings, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they were like, hey, here's this guy. And I think intuitively that psychologist probably understood and knew, because there's also a very fine line of protecting your job and the role that you play. Yeah. And because they're giving the psychologist something, he has nothing else but to say, like, it must be this, because that's the pattern, right? Yeah. But
he really had no control. Like he was a string puppet. They were forcing him to do and say things, and I could see it because the things that he was saying wasn't lining up with what was going on. And it was a rough situation, for me and him, the psychiatrist, because we were thrust in a situation where basketball is business. Right? Now they have NIL deals, they have where players can get paid by schools and whatnot. But before, it was still a business. Mm-hmm. Now they let the kids in on the business, right? But it was a business. It was profit driven. The school's probably a nonprofit, right? But it was definitely profit driven,
of course,
right? I remember walking into the gym one day and I saw these big cameras, huge cameras. I'm like, what's this? Oh, we got an ESPN game today. Really? How much are you going to make from this? 15 to 21 what? Million. I'm like, what?
What?
I'm like, how much am I going to get on this?
I know. That was like the biggest shift, because the fact that they had so many college students like playing, and then the thing that like hurt me, I mean, I was never a professional in terms of sports, but it's like, what if you didn't make it to the National League?
Yeah. You start from zero.
You literally start from zero after all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put in your college career, right? Geared towards this like whole idea of like, okay, here's the top of it. Like, I'm really happy that they changed that for students, because they deserve it. They work hard for it.
Yeah, it's unfair to get a 18-year-old who starts out at 18 and then they graduate at 21, 22, right? You don't give them any financial literacy. They don't give you financial literacy.
No, of course not.
That should be the number one. That should be the number one subject in every school, in every grade, up until you leave school, right? Because, financial knowledge, when it comes to finance, it keeps changing, and you got to change with the times, right? And imagine being an 18-year-old from the ghetto. Like my mom, I ate free lunch at school. We didn't have any money. Like my mom paid $50 for rent when I was growing up as a kid, right? We made it work though. But imagine me not being able to, if I would have took the route that I took, and let's say I didn't make it to the NBA, but I still graduated from VCU or whatnot, I would have graduated with a degree, but I didn't have a credit card. I didn't know how credit worked. My mom didn't know how credit worked, right? Like, she went through the same system that I went through, right? It's just that I was rebellious. Mm-hmm. Like, if it doesn't stack up, if it doesn't add up, I'm not going to go through with it. Like, I don't care. You may hate me, but I'm going to win later.
Yeah.
Like my intuition's going to make me, I know I'm going to prevail in the future, and I know the future's going to absolve me from whatever you guys tell me.
Yeah.
And my whole time there, it was that. I was like, I know you guys are lying. I know you guys are BSing me, even with the sickle cell and all that. I know, I see the game.
Sounds like a familiar story, you know?
Like with who?
Just America.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're here to break that generational restraint, curse, whatever anybody wants to call it. Like, I guess we would say like you're that chosen one to really shift the dynamic of the legacy moving on forward, right? Because intuitively, like I resonate with the sense of sticking with your intuition in terms of like that belief where you just know deep in there that nobody can waver that faith that you have within yourself, that you're meant for more or greatness or better. And even when somebody did try to do that to you, look at how you rose up, and now you're like the poster for this, because you're like, yeah, even the people that tried in like the strongest part of my journey, look at what that did. Poster child, like, hi guys. I had an experience like that at the hospital one time, and I
Talk about it.
I literally went to my manager, and I was like, hey, you know, maybe we could take these initiatives to do better. You know, it was like team coordinating at the time in the ER, and I just recognized like the wheels could be turning so much more efficient. We could maximize, like, do better. I wasn't a lead. They didn't want to make me a lead, but they would call me to help them with all the hires, to help do everything else, but they didn't want to give me that credit. So after talking to my manager, I was like, let me write an email. Maybe listening was hard for him, so maybe reading it would be better, right?
And you're creating a paper trail. So.
And now I understood the paper trails because I didn't understand that. Very upset, and he's like, look, do you want to address this now, or do you want it in front of people? I was like, let's do it in front of everybody so that we can have a fair discussion to see if what I'm saying is valid. Guess who walked into the lion's den? This girl, right? They ripped me a new one. Yeah. They were like, I can't believe you would even write this. Were you angry when you wrote? Like, literally gaslighting me in that space, right? Funny enough, the CEO of the hospital changed the next week, and all new initiatives rolled out. And would you believe that what I wrote on that paper was all new initiatives? So when we were in like the meeting for him to give us that information, I was like, wow. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So vexed with me because of that. Like, I remember in the meeting, he's like, my chest is as big as a football field. Like, bro, I'm not coming for your job. I don't even want this job. I'm just trying to help for like the bigger picture. But it becomes very political in there. And that's where I was just like another turn off of the system, where I was like, no, I'm not doing this. You know, I had somebody that was working in the cafeteria area, and she would help with the meals. And I would suggest, like, can't we get these things? No, because people can't get better. It's bad for business, right? Like, underlying motives here. And so that's the part where I was just like, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, I can't serve this because it's not resonating to what I believe is good, or to be like the purpose of what I feel I should live for. And, you know, I found acupuncture, I found a way, I hope to take that to the world, but it's just interesting to see how, like, when people, it's kind of like, we could say karma, right? Yeah. Or my mom will always say, who God has blessed, no man can curse, right? Yeah. So it's like going into like a space like that, I'm like, you know what? That's why I honor truth, because it's literally truth that will set you free. Like, if you can always stay strong in your faith and understand that what you're doing is coming from a pure space, you really have nothing else to worry about. Like, people will get mad and whatever, but I've always been that person too. So I feel like I get that.
Let them get mad, right? Yeah. It's like you can't take in information that goes against what you believe.
Exactly.
But who taught you what you believe? Now we got to question them.
Exactly.
Now, where's the information really coming from now? Right?
Exactly. When I tell you,
where's it really coming?
Like recently in the last in my journeys for acupuncture school, I've been in a bubble. I didn't even and I'm somebody that I feel, I think I know it all. I know a lot. I do know a lot.
You know what you know.
But I do know what I know. I know what I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
I know that I don't know what I don't know, right? And I understand that I don't know what I do know sometimes, right? And within that space of, you know, what I think I know, when I was awakened or provided knowledge that just completely shifted all of my belief systems, that was the first step of me understanding, like, you don't know anything, actually, because you don't know who's controlling the knowledge. You don't know what access you have to anything. And if the biggest example that you can use is the Western Eastern medicine and like the take, oh, wow. Like, my biggest enemy in my heart is like the AMA and the medical system here, because now they've come after the practice that I shifted into to say that we're not doctors, that we cannot have the doctor title, and that we can only be called acupuncture physicians. Yeah. And would you believe who initiated that?
Yeah. Define doctor, though. What?
So a doctor, in terms of when you go to an acupuncturist, so you can get your master's and you can go and get your license and you can practice, right? So naturally, if somebody's coming to see you, they feel like you're their doctor, right? Because the intention of a doctor, as anybody would understand it, is...
Hippocratic oath.
Exactly. So now the level of doctorates or your doctoral, being able to call yourself a doctor, you can go to school for that 4-year degree, but we still get like a doctoral. So it's not even like, in terms of the law, unless you have like a white coat and it's Western or chiropractic, you cannot be called doctor. You can only be called an acupuncture physician, right? So you can't advertise that you're Dr. Mac. Like, I wouldn't be able to say I'm Dr. Macco. I'm just acupuncture physician. Now, for me personally, I really don't care because I'm still doing the work. Like, to me, it's not. And there's titles, and it does fish out the people that tried to get into acupuncture for that doctor title, which is cool. But in discrediting the practice, I feel like there's an agenda there, right? So seeing how chiropractic has come together, strong lobbyists, strong community, everything. You know, I hope to bring the community of acupuncturists together to understand like stronger together, because there's this thing where we just go and there's no system set up for us to be like, okay, let's come together. It's just we finish and we go individual practices, right? Like, I saw somebody trying to mainstream acupuncture kind of like a massage envy, and I'm like, this is like real medicine. Like, I have so many people in their experiences that it's their last line of defense, but then it works. And I'm like, why don't we just teach them something less invasive and go there? And if it doesn't work, go to Western, right? I met a woman that had breast cancer metastasized to 17 places. Doctors told her nothing. I went to the seminar of the doctor who treated her. I happened to sit right next to her, and she told me her whole story. And she said something in her just believed and knew. She came across his information, got the call, a canceled appointment, like divine intervention for her. She went to treat him, herbs, acupuncture. When she went to the checkup for the Western doctor, there was only one place left, and she just knew that was going to disappear too, and they were completely shocked. And I'm just like, this is it. Like, they're withholding the information of like how to genuinely help people because they just want to make money. And I'm like, you could still make money, just treat the people right. Like, you know, elevate, but that's just not the foundation I feel like the country was really built on.
Well, that's a topic I really want to dive down.
Okay.
Right? And the reason why is because I want to bring a clear understanding of what's really going on, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, tell us. Tell the people, what is it?
Yeah.
Because I know you're.
I have a lot to say, right? And you hit on all of them. Like, you're making me proud just by sitting here. Like, I'm happy. Like, I'm like, yo, someone knows what I already know, right?
Yeah. The tribe, right?
Yeah.
We're coming together.
So it's like this, you know. If you knew how to fix your car, would you have to take it to a garage?
No.
To get it done by a mechanic? No, you would know. You would just know how to fix it, right? But let's say hypothetically you knew how to fix your car, but let's say you didn't know, but then you took it to a garage, and then they said, "Well, this is how you do it." Will you go do it, or will you say, "Well, just you do it. That's why I'm here."
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like the same thing. I don't want to compare them. That's not a direct correlation between a mechanic.
It's a good analogy,
though.
Yeah,
yeah, right. It's a good analogy.
It's culture now.
Yeah, but it's like, it's a conflict of interest to go to a doctor and say, like, fix me.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as fix when you go to a doctor. Like,
yeah.
if they wanted to fix you, they would have taught you in elementary school how to make yourself not see them. But that's a conflict of interest. How are they going to make money from that? You cannot tell people something that's going to free them, right? Like, no system that pockets off of your sickness is going to teach you how not to get sick and not to go see them. Like, that's just how this thing works, right? But I'm not completely against them, because a lot of people are lazy. So they're going to always have customers,
Of course.
clients, right? But for the ones that aren't and that have the need and want to figure out what's wrong with me, well, then those are the people who should be given the knowledge. But the last person you go to for that is not a doctor. Like, you see what I'm saying? Most of the time, like you said earlier, they only get what, on average, 16 hours worth of nutritional.
Like the doctor's
teaching?
in medical school.
16 hours of education for nutrition. That's nonsense, because nutrition is probably the number one thing to treat almost everything, right? And it's preventative, it's not reactive. And Western medicine is not a preventative thing. So it's like now we're talking preventative. Right?
Exactly.
So it's like now we're laying this thing on, and we have to start from the origin. Well, what are the things that make us healthy? All right? Like, well, what is that? How does that look? Should I do Pilates? Should I
Cold plunges, right? This
right?
is all the rave now.
Yeah, should
cold
I do
plunges is going to help me.
Right?
Yeah.
Like what are those things, right? And now I have a gripe with your casual Instagrammer health professional, right? Because it's like you're doing the same thing the system did. You're talking against the system, but you're acting in the same manner. Right? It's like, come on, guys. Like, it's much more simple than that. Right? And I broke it down for the 7 natural doctors, right? That's diet, water, air, exercise, sleep, stress management, and sunbathing. Those are the 7 natural doctors.
I love that you sunbathe, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I genuinely am like, wow, somebody else gets it.
I'm trying to get as dark as possible.
Right?
Where's the camera? I'm trying to get as dark as possible.
No, give it to your camera right there.
I'm trying to get as dark as possible, right? and listen, it's not a joke though. So if you see my skin, right, like that tone is my summer tone, right? This is my winter tone, right? I'm trying to get 3 to 4 shades darker than this in the summer. Right? Or your armpit, right? You're not supposed to be as light as you possibly can be. You want to be a few shades darker. And you got to do that in a healthy way as well. But that's if you want to talk about that later, we can. But
no, we're going into that because let me tell you, the indoctrination that I experienced
in Jamaica.
No, coming from that Jamaican household, right, and then growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood and being the outlier. And then not fitting in, like, you think I would have ever looked at a dark man? And I know this is like a lot for you guys to hear right now, but I'm being completely honest.
Tell it.
Is I always just thought, okay, like, white guy, Indian girl, maybe an Indian guy, but I never thought black. And I read up when I did my pageant, I was like Miss India in Jamaica, whatever. And I was like, let me get some knowledge on this because the Indians were such a big influence in Jamaica, right?
The coolies.
The coolies, right?
Coolies.
But what they didn't want you to know was that they were trying to segregate the Indians and the African Americans. Why? Because, come on, super baby right there, the genetics. And it's not to put any other race down, but it's to show or demonstrate how there was knowledge well enough to understand that they needed to segregate us because it would be easier to divide and conquer, right? And then seeing how it's like a survival tactic for Indians, right? Because the British colonialized, like, oh yeah, if an Indian woman were to be with a white man, your life is going to be easier because you don't have to deal with all of the system's issues or whatever issues they would have with you. So like I saw the indoctrination. I see it like through my family. Colorism is a huge thing.
That's everywhere though.
Everywhere,
yeah,
of course.
I lived in 4 or 5 different countries. It's everywhere.
No, it's everywhere. Yeah. Even in India amongst the Indians themselves, like it's huge. Yeah. But just to see like when I read that, and then I went into like deeper, just like roots of I really like went into like a Billy Carson spiral, Anunnaki, Emerald tablets, like just where everything stemmed from. And I was like, this makes sense. I was like, I knew it because just like the knowledge and the bits that I had that really, really stuck with me or resonated with me, I was like, whoa. So like, I understand that where the color of your skin. But what was funny is like in college, one thing I would always do was go out and sunbathe. Like it was just something that always made me feel better. And my best friend's like, she's like your complexion. She's Indian as well. Like me, Indian, Jamaican. And even though we were like made fun of that, we were still something was just like, it didn't matter because we felt so much more energized and better to just like sit there and soak the sun up. And our skin could handle it too, right? That was like another thing. So I referenced the movie Get Out too the other day. Bro, when I saw it finally, I should have saw it sooner, but what? Let me rest my case and get you back on, because you need to preach to them of why it is so important to sunbathe.
Oh man, okay, all right.
So getting these shades darker is in like the seasons that you were saying.
Yeah. So sunbathing is essential. It's something that we all need. White, black, whatever color you want to create, right? Because all these things are created, right? You know, there's no black person.
Yeah,
it's a shade of brown. You know, we're talking about eumelanin,
yeah,
and pheomelanin, the pink. You know what I mean? So when people talk about skin, I'm like, well, it's no black. It's a brown. It's a dark brown.
Yeah,
and that's a pink or yellow.
I know.
Right? It's no white.
Segregation,
right?
though, you know. Yeah, it fit the agenda.
We know how that works,
yes,
right? But you know, so one of the things that I like to preach is I like to look at the skin, because the skin is like a manual to me, right? So when I look at skin, I'm like, oh, that person's dark skin. They need to be in the sun, but which sun do they need to be in? But then I go look at the nose. Is it a wide, flat set nostril? Is it a nostril that sticks out, right? And then I'm like, okay, well then if that nose looks like that, that hair always matches the nose. So it's probably a little bit coilier or straighter depending on the nose, right? So I match the nose with the hair and the skin. I'm like, okay, I know exactly what this person needs to eat, where they need to be at, because their genetics are telling me where they're from, right? And it's one of those things where you can't hide it. A lot of people try to hide it, but it's like, it's impossible, right? If your ancestors are from a humid region, let's say it's near the equator, sea level, that nose is going to be flat, very flat, right? If you're from that same region, higher altitude, that nose is going to thin out. It's going to be the nostril's going to be thinner, right?
Okay, that would make sense.
Right, a higher region, right? And then the nose is going to be straighter, right? So if you look at a Nigerian and you look at like a Kenyan, two completely different. They're both African, but they look different. The Kenyans look a little strange, like the hair's a little straighter, and nose a little straighter, but skin's still dark. Yeah. Right, because if you go up, let's say, what is it, a mile in altitude, a mile in altitude, that's 10% more exposure to UVB radiation or UV radiation, right? So we're looking at a manual that we try to avoid and be like, oh, well, it's not made for that. It's like, it kind of is. Like, it kind of is, right?
Yeah. No, not kind of, definitely is, right?
Yeah, and to avoid the truth of how our bodies work based on how they look is to set yourself up for failure, right? If you're from a region where mangoes grow, and now you live in a region where mangoes don't grow, well, you're gonna be sick. I'm sorry, right? Like, there's a reason why that mango can't thrive there. The plant may grow, but it's not gonna bear any fruit.
Exactly. Its whole ecosystem is shifted. It's not designed to thrive in that ecosystem. So now it has to adapt in some form,
but
if it can.
It takes generations to adapt.
Of course.
It takes thousands of years to adapt. Like, we're not going to adapt in spring break. Like, over our vacation, like, there's no adaptation. It's not going to happen that fast. If anything, it's going to hurt you, because the body doesn't want to work instantaneously. It want to work incrementally. Of course. It's going to take you time. Like, even to sunbathe, I tell people, you get out there for the first 5-minute exposure, your kneecaps down for 5 minutes. Then the next day, your hips for the same 5 minutes.
That's really good, yeah.
Right, and then the torso, right, and then the extremities. So it's all practice. Heliotherapy is a whole practice, right? It's a whole thing, and the last thing I want to do is give people bits of information, because it'll lead people in a desperation of, hey, I know what I don't need to do, but then now I know what I should do, but I don't know how to do what I should do, right? Yeah. So they're stuck. They're like, well, what do I do? Oh shit! Like,
just tell me how at this point.
Right, but it's hard because everyone's different, right? Yeah. Someone may be taking penicillin or something, or Advil or Aleve. They can't go in the sun. They're going to burn from the inside out, because those are phototoxins and photosensitive chemicals that are inside that Advil. So, there's a lot of different things. If you're overweight, right, it's a lot, right?
Oh, I know, because I see like people, like the one thing that I see that I'm like, oh, like I know that they're in medications, but they're trying to be outside at the same time. But it's just like, like those big ankles, or people with like big like feet, and they just, I'm like, if they only knew, and I just want to help, but like it's just too much. It sucks to just like experience it when you know better and you kind of feel like helpless. Maybe that's just my savior complex at play, but it's very sad to see that, wow, like I know this, and the bits of information and the people who are like puppeting the world do not desire this unification, knowledge, and just like uplifting the world. It's like, It's very sad. I mean, it's the realm we live in, but yeah.
But money has to be made, and there's no money in healthy people, right? There's like how can you make a system doesn't work when a person has a sound body and a sound mind. Like you got to create some type of disturbance to make some money.
Of course.
Like I got to make you have low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right. I got to drop your ego.
Well, control by fear, right?
Yeah. I got to drop your ego. Whatever sense of ego you have, because now it's shunned upon to be like, oh, you have a high sense of ego. High sense of ego doesn't mean you're disrespectful. Mm-hmm. You can really think great of yourself, because if you think great of yourself, you think great of the next person, right? Because you got to have it within to give it, right? Within, so it's in, it's out, right? So, it's just one of those things where the system has to create something to make money, because if you don't create that disturbance, you don't create that sickness, that illness, no money gets made. Like all economy is based on people being sick. Yeah, it's just complete. What doesn't make sense makes sense.
Of course.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to do a lot of stuff, but it make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make sense to sunbathe. Right?
Yeah.
But, it makes a lot of money, right? It doesn't make sense to work out and all that.
This is just because the majority of people, too, just need to be like told. I think I had somebody tell me this ant farm analogy, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was like 20%, 40%, and 40%, or like the percentages were, and don't quote me on the percentages, is the way that the ant farm worked, and they've done studies, which I should probably link this for this one because this is actually very fascinating, is that they studied how the ant farms had created, I think it was with bees, ants, and humans, right, across the board. And they had these roles where you had the people that were going out, finding, exploring, figuring out what to do, gathering, and then kind of controlling, right? But there's going to be amongst the population just a certain group that can do each role, which makes sense, right? But the majority of people need to be told in a way what to do. And so I get that. So it's like, because of understanding that, then there's that room for them to make their dollars, because they understand that, well, if I just puppet it this way, then it's fine, because like they don't even know anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to see like how the psychology plays the role and how it's like designed, I guess, for this country. But I always found that fascinating, because I'm like, I used to be the person that thought everybody thought like me. I was so naive. Like that the things that made sense to me were like this for everybody else. And that's where I saw, like in my school or my classes, like I just saw how the way I was thinking, but I was just so aloof. Like, I wasn't really like mindful growing up. I just wanted to be free little spirit, have fun, be happy for As I grew up, I recognized like, wow, like no, people just really don't get it, Laris. And you are very much probably more of that lower percentage, and very special in this way. And that's where I think like honing on purpose was where like the timing of the book, my brother, everything just was like divinely designed. Mm-hmm. But just understanding that, and I'm like, this sucks, because now I'm dealing with a bunch of people in the world. Like, how do I now get that message out to them for the betterment, right? And that's just one thing where I think, again, with that complex sometimes that I have, is like you can't save them all, but you could just do the best and show up, and then everything else can fall into place, as long as the intention is there.
Yeah, that's just the bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Like, you weren't the standard deviation. you were far out, right? You're
way far out.
You're like the third deviation, right? It's kind of hard to control those people, because it's more so people who are probably on the end of the bell curve, the far end of it. They're probably are the ones who are in position to control those people. Yeah. Right? You don't find many people who are at the far end that are not trying to control those people, because they can see, right? And then you get certain people who don't, and they're just like, hey, I'm trying to help you. But they're like, really?
Yeah.
Like, but that's hard. I want convenience, right? Like I used to eat real food years ago, but now I want processed food. I used to drink real water, but now I want processed water. I used to breathe in real air, now I want processed air, because it's much easier. Processed air is processed sun. I want processed everything. It's like, convenient. It comes to a point, like there's no food 2.0. There's no air 2.0. There's no sun 2.0. There's no exercise 2.0. There's no
No, you could
stress management 2.0.
For a beautiful price, you can actually just put something on and get your workout in for 20 minutes in 2 minutes, bro. It's a thing. I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know if I could really genuinely promote this. Like, you know, I mean, I get it, but no. Because you take away the natural process in order for people, but
the majority of people there, they want it. Like you can't. It's like if you go to Publix, you'll see the organic and the inorganic. You know which one sells the most?
The inorganic.
Of course, it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. Yeah, which is crazy to me. I'm like, wait, why don't we just organic everything?
But is it crazy? Is it crazy though?
It's intentional. It's intentional. That's the best word I got there.
You give people their own devices. You let them go and do it their own, and you see what they're gonna do. Right? People say they want something, but what people say and what people do are two completely different things.
Of course,
it is not.
Of course,
it is what it is. But we cannot avoid. And you know, I don't want the listener of this podcast to be like, oh, I'm trying to avoid everything. It's like. To the best of your ability,
of course.
Right? To the most possible you can without inconveniencing yourself to be broke, right?
Of course.
Because you can't create your own electricity. You got to pay for that, right? And if you could, it'd be hard to do that. You can't create your own water. You could, but it'd be hard, right? So it's like we're trying to get people to create their own stuff, right? And I know that's an extreme example, right? Electricity and water, but sunbathing, like you don't need to take a vitamin D pill. Like it's,
I know.
We live in Miami. You shouldn't be in a sauna. Red light, infrared light, near, far. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
But I get it.
Literally outside. You just.
You went inside to the sauna. I went outside for the sauna.
No, you drove to the spa in your car in
you
the
paid
sun.
$200
to go and do that when it's outside for free. I can't.
But then again, who are we to laugh at people who are willing to do that because it's time efficient?
Of course.
They need to make money, right? Like that.
Hey, it's human
right?
for everybody
right?
at the end of the day.
Listen, so I'm Jamaican citizen. You're Jamaican citizen yet?
No.
You're not. So I'm a Jamaican citizen. I just got my citizenship like 7 years ago, right? I lived in Spain. My ex-wife's Turkish, so I was in Turkey all the time. I played a little bit in China. I lived in Egypt before I moved to Miami. Places that don't have a lot of money they have the best food.
I know. That I know because I worked for people. Like I used to work for, I mean, before all the stuff I do now was like the small places, vegan, shout out to Beehive. I don't know if you know Beehive. I love them. I used to work there when I didn't have any other place to go to because I broke my hand and I needed a job. The hospital obviously didn't want me to work. I was like, but I need to work somewhere. So I went to work with him. I went to work for this, I think he was Palestinian, and where he would tell me the stories of his country and how different everything was. And then when I would buy organic fruits and vegetables versus like when my household would buy regular, and I remember cutting the regular versus, and I just saw the difference. Like you can see the processing is different.
Taste it, see it, smell it,
everything.
All your senses.
And even just going to another country and like the level of inflammation, you can eat the same thing, but then there's still that level of inflammation because of whatever is grounded into like what's growing it, right? Like you go to London or England, you could eat the same thing, but for some reason it's different. And it's just the world, the country we live in.
Yeah, but you know, and that's why our economy is thriving.
Yeah.
That just shows you there. Like, you know, wherever you have the worst food, you have the most money there. That's why everyone's here, right? But while you're here, you can allow the game to be played on you, or you can not allow it to be played on you, right? But you can't say much because you look crazy.
Of course.
You be that guy standing on the corner, hey, Jesus is coming back.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, I was like that one time, right? I would tell people, no, don't eat this, don't do this, don't do this. Now I'm like, come to me if you want to be free. If you don't,
you open up the store and people will come. Like all you have to do, and that's like one of the lessons that I learned too, because like you said, you don't want to be that preacher person that's coming off as like on the corner, like do this because you have to. It's not the approach of how humans work too. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when the light within each other recognizes it in the other person and they want to gravitate towards that. Like everybody asks me, how do you have so much energy? How come you're so happy? How come you... I was like, honestly, I've been like this since I was a child. But I can say that I have gone through the mix. You know, faith has wavered back and forth, my diet, my exercise, but the things that I've learned over the time and the pattern that has worked for me is this. And so I'm just going to live that and be the path that I walk and I, desire for others. And if they want to come and they're seeking the help, I can help you. Other than that, we're not even helping ourselves, because when I did that, it was so energetically draining. I'm like, I tell everybody, if you've been seeking in some space and the conversation, there's this wow moment that I have with people and they're just like, and I'm like, that's the moment I know to say, when you've been seeking, this is kind of where God like lined you up with me, because some way I'm supposed to facilitate this healing, and being able to serve in that direction is like very fulfilling. But again, that person, you can't force somebody to want something. It's only if they want it or they recognize it or it resonates with them at the time that it's supposed to. And that's just the way the world works. Yeah. I've had to come to terms with that, unfortunately.
Yeah, because if you don't, you're more holier than thou.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, you're not God.
Right.
You're right. Well, let me shut up.
And in our field too, I feel like in wellness, there's so many people. Like I've had so many practitioners, like they'll come up and they'll judge me or think like if maybe the day is just not the day I'm feeling very vibrant, or like that I need to exert any ego energy or whatever it is for the day. And then they'll, like, me not being reactive towards that will kind of trigger them depending on like their ego, but most is like, no, but this is the way and you're supposed to, versus just like, let it be. Like if it is, if it isn't, like you shouldn't have this resistance or force, because now you're negatively affecting yourself and me and radiating this energy, and that's not what you say you're about, right? So, but then finding people to be about it than just like say it is a different story. We mentioned.
But look at us, we're over here telling people about how we have to come off soft in what we're saying. And even though it's like the most natural way and the most practical way to do it, we have to censor ourselves. Imagine that, right? Imagine.
Oh, no, I stopped censoring myself. I stopped like a long time ago. And I know it annoys a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I think I was very inspired by like Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, like those people that they encourage conversation. I would love to encourage conflict, because I know that there's a way to find resolution. And those who dare to be vulnerable and allow that space, like that's the space I want to be in. So if you're not in there, then that's fine, because you exist and I'm not going to negate that. Like this is true. But in terms of my energy and my space, and if you want that luxury of being around me and what I believe, then this is just how it is. And there's an understanding, that I feel people have amongst that same energetic field, right? Because we understand the energetic level is no different than like chemistry and quantum physics and electron cloud theory and all these ideas of how energy itself works. It's broken down into a scientific way. It's no different than the way human beings resonate, right? So like, I'm not trying to stay at N1. Like I'm trying to bounce to like the level that suits me and then stay in that. I don't need to be top of the whole entire thing, running the whole like show. Like I'm a big team player. I believe that everybody has their special attributes and that we can come together and thrive. That's more my style. There's people that are just like, no, I can't even do anything and I'm a victim my whole life. I've been that girl. I used to do things like out of resentment that was towards another person but was just hurting myself, right? I think we could all say we've been there. But in terms of the energy and that, it's like, that's why I'm so big on like understanding, like finding my tribe or just being an example to others. And my only hope is that when planting that seed, God can do the rest. But I did and fulfilled the most that I could do in that role in the most authentic way I could. That's all I care about. I've learned just be a good person, be kind, tell the truth. That's it. You may not like the truth either though, and I'm gonna tell you the truth, but that's a different story.
No, well, yeah, no, that's I was at that point one time, right? And I was like, I'm not getting far with this, right? It was like, actually, I'm going in reverse, right? And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, because we all got to go through our stages. But now I'm like, how are people affected? How do you persuade people? Oh, you hit them emotionally. Everything is an emotional purchase. When you buy information, that's all emotional. When you buy a product, it's all emotion, right? Okay, cool. Let me make a documentary. I'm going to hit you there, right? And you know what? I'm not even going to talk on it. I'm going to let everyone else talk about me and talk about what I did, right? Because you can't talk about yourself because, you have an ego. But if you now have other people to talk on your behalf, just like, Jesus and his 12 disciples and all that,
course.
right? Now it's like, oh, wow, this person really is who he says he is, right? This person really did what he said he did.
That's why
right?
reviews are so powerful, right?
Yeah,
Testimonies
yeah.
and things to that degree.
Yeah.
And in the art of seduction, this is one of the tactics
Yeah.
where, a lot of politicians and people in the place of power, like, they'll highlight they'll either like try to highlight the other person, or what they have is that they're surrounded by the people that understand the power that they hold, and then they can reflect that so that other people, again, are not turned off by that egotistic nature.
Yeah.
And you can still be very inviting and influence them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's just the hard part, because when you're so out there and you haven't really gained that, I wouldn't say that reputation, but that notoriety, right? It's like where people know you and other people know you and other people vouch on your behalf, right? Where your reputation precedes you almost, right?
Yes.
When you get to that point, it's almost like you just walk around, you don't say a word. They already know that, right? It's like I'm starting to play the game from that perspective, because I think I'm done with the talk, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why do I have to talk? No, the work has already been done. Now let that person say what I did. Now let that person say what I did.
And
let
promote that
say
conversation and communication, which is so huge. Like, we have the means of communicating around the world, and there's still people just messing it up, right? Just for like, you have the people that just want to like go on there to just trigger or whatever, and I'm just like, so now we go deeper than the communication. It's the vulnerability, right? And it's, again, everything's an emotional game. It sucks, because I wish people understood that that's just energy. That's just energy. Like, transmute it. You be the alchemist. Like, you could literally figure it out. Like, what do you actually want? But people don't even think about what they want. They just mindlessly, robotically go about the world, and the way that the world is going now is even more robotic. So it's really sad to see, but that's why, again, like, I enjoy the people that dare to lead with vulnerability, have conversations, challenge, trigger, hopefully for the side of light, but at the same time, like, I understand. I respect everybody's hustle. Like, we're all humans. I just know where I stand, and that's where I think the biggest thing in the journey is that spiritual ascension for your own lineage or your legacy or your spirit. After we're not in this physical realm, I can't speak and say that I know exactly what's going to happen. I do believe in this idea of heaven where my spirit will go somewhere else, because that's just how energy works. But to get so definitive, like how religion did at one point, selling tickets to heaven, I'm like, you guys have a song literally red and yellow, black and white. Like, you guys, then I learned about Ark of Covenant. Then I learned about who rewrote the Bible. Then I learned about all the editions, and I'm like, this is such not on the path of what we're talking about, but
it is on the path.
But you get what I mean.
It really is on the path.
It is.
It 100% is on the path.
I was like, I hope I wasn't taking you off, but you get it.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm
this
there.
control.
1,000, believe me.
And what's funny is there's this this audiobook I've been listening to. It's like most influential women before the 1400s, right? So we talk about there's a part about Constantine and him and his child and the wife, what's her name? Helena of Troy. And just like the influence and how these women like went about, but just hearing the stories and the history of power, destroying the libraries, erasing people from history. Like, this is all a gimmick.
They erased history?
Did they do that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right?
I had no idea.
Or like the marketing aspect of things, right? Like, did you see the Book of Clarence?
No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh. It really made me rethink like some part of my faith to a degree, where I was like, okay, I understand Jesus Christ was a real man. I do believe that. I do believe that he was purposed to influence people to do good, and that he died for us, resurrected. Whichever way that works out, deep within me, something resonates with that, and I go with it.
Heru did that as well. Heru from Egypt, the ancient Kemet. Heru and Isis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with that. I don't believe Jesus is the only one, but here's why Book of Clarence was so interesting to me, because the perspective was, whoa, he was like the ultimate marketer. Like, he down-packed. The Bible is the like oldest, biggest book, right? I mean, it's been shifted, changed, gospel's taken out, and whatever. no different than when I found out that the movie that they're making about the landing on the moon, that whole thing was just like to market as well. So I'm like, the play and the psychology of like the influence. Now, all these people could have done it and served their purpose, died for the betterment, like where I feel like I have this savior complex, so I understand it. Obviously, the means of religion, control, it's very human for that desire of power, right? I get that. In that space, though, when I speak of like how it comes off and where people can control, maybe like manipulate, using psychology, using all these different things at play, time and space. So it's like people were doing this, so it's like I don't even know what to believe to be real. All I can do is really like zone in on who I am, the things that I like that resonate with my body, my mind, and my spirit, and then go on operating through my experience and my perspective and what my body is feeding me and telling me. Because it's like an antenna everywhere, right? At some point, we're all connected to this innate intelligence, right? The body heals itself on its own. There's some sort of uniformity there. Just like with religion, there's some uniformity with us all going to God at the end of the day. So like, what's this whole debate about really? And like, can we just keep going, you know?
So let me ask you a question. Did you get any pushback from your family when talking about stuff like this and just the way you live your life?
The way that I live my life, all the time.
Yeah.
I think that I've also slightly awakened in terms of my personal household. So the way that my family is, and you know, like Indian Jamaican family is like huge. So like grandma, grandpa, your aunt and your uncle, like everybody's your mom and dad. Like, so there's a lot. Now I haven't pushed conversation there because in my family, we have Hindus, we have like Jehovah's Witness, we have, I think that's it, and then Christian. But growing up, I was supposed to be like this perfect little thing, you know, no sex before marriage, always do right, all these ideals that were just so like restrictive and controlling and like unrealistic. No wonder growing up I'd hear, well, they think that Christians are what is it when they don't say what they do? Hypocrites.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're good. No, you're
right,
talking
and I understand because it's like they're designing it to be like, okay, this definitive way, when that's not the intention of the whole practice anyways. It's be a good person, use your discernment, you know, tell the truth, do good. And so that's where I shifted. And this happened actually in high school when I started learning more about religions. And my brother and I literally got into a fight in the kitchen because he was so upset that I was saying that I was like talking about these other spaces. And I understand the need for people to fixate and want to stick to these, like in the Jehovah's Witness thing, it's like extreme. And this is not to throw shade on anything, but I notice a pattern amongst all of them. I understand the good, but then I also, deeper in with my training in like Chinese medicine, there's things that they lack control of in themselves or their own life, or that they avoid, that this is just like the perfect outlet and framework to say, well, yeah, I mean, I go to church and I do this and you know what I mean? To make up for whatever else.
Yeah, it's to launder everything they're doing in their life. Right?
Great word.
It's all laundering.
Exactly.
It's all.
So when I talk to each side, or when I tell them about, you know, if they ask, have you been to church? I was like, well, I don't really need to. My relationship with God is like between me and him wherever I am.
And the church is everywhere I'm at.
Exactly, right? It doesn't take me to have to go get up Sunday morning, get dressed or whatever to just talk to God who's right there. And it's funny because I've had, you know, in my practice with Chinese medicine and acupuncture, I've had a man, I will ask people, do you pray? And I believe in prayer. And the guy told me, no, mantra, I don't have time.
It's just mantra.
Mantras, right?
Yeah,
whichever way you want to put it.
Right?
Prayer is a mantra, energy, whatever the spell is that you want to put it to, we understand it, whichever word you decorate it with,
whatever,
right?
Same thing.
The guy's like, I don't have time in the morning because, you know, I don't have time to even spread my bed, whatever. And I'm like, bam, something in your childhood made you feel like this routine. Then life took you out of, I'm like, hey guy, just so you know, God is everywhere. So like, I'm going to challenge you when you get to your car, talk to him, just connect. Even if it's for yourself, even if it's you just talking to yourself, just have that moment where you just have really all of your attention to yourself and this higher space. And he came back the next week. I didn't see him. We're in the passing. I see him in the curtain next to the person that I was treating. He sees my face and he looks at me, and I already knew, and he goes, "Thank you," with tears in his eyes. Something so subtle, and I'm just like, you see how religion just jades it? And then again, I go into like Henry VIII, all these ways of the branches of Christianity and all. I'm like, you guys are driving me insane with all of this. Like, I get it. I used to be the proud, like, I was Baptist, now I'm non-denominational, now I'm this and that. And like, when people do ask me or question my faith or I question theirs, I tell them, I'm like, I do believe that Jesus Christ was the Savior. So if you want to categorize me as a Christian, go ahead and do that. I do believe in what he did. I do believe that people should do good, that they should be truthful, and that my faith isn't based off of like a religious bound, but more of like the spirituality where I've connected more, because now that I know what I know, now that I know the control, now that I understand the Pope, the Ark of the Covenant, the Ethiopian Bible, the Bible here now, the versions that I've had, like the last Bible somebody gifted me was a Life Application Bible. And it was, again, another version. But then when you read the version before, I'm like, that is easily misconstrued for somebody to receive what you guys wrote here versus what was written before. Then just hearing the 4 Gospels like being taken out, like, why is information being taken out and withheld? Why don't you guys want people to know what Jesus was doing and his healing endeavors at the age of 30? Like, why did he disappear from that? You know, and this is where, if people in especially like Christian faith and the church understood that, I think more would seek to be healers and kind of live a path where I feel you and I resonate with, that would then challenge that system more to break free from it and then really truly awaken.
You're preaching.
But
you're preaching. I love
you know,
it. I love
I'm
it.
just
Listen, I'm so happy I can't sit still.
Yeah. Right?
I didn't know that, you know, there were, you know, well, I knew it, but, you know, in Miami, it's hard to find people who can really talk the talk, right? Because a lot of people, they'll say things and they're just saying things, right? They don't really embody what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Or they can't really even speak what they're saying, right? They can't go into the nuances behind it. And, you know, I would say stuff, you know, it's like my family. I would say things like, you know, my last name isn't my last name. My last name is a slave master who gave us this last name. That's not my last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I swear to God.
No,
everybody
mine
hated me in
too.
my family. Everybody hated me there.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Well,
because you're speaking truth.
What do you mean slave master?
Yeah.
Well, this is how the history works.
Yeah.
And your history didn't start with slavery, because they were the Almoravid Empire before, you know, slavery. They were the Mali Empire, Songhai, Benin, Gal. There's so many different empires. Mm-hmm. Guys, whatever they told you was a lie. It was all a lie to get you to believe into the BS.
Of
right?
course.
Before 1942, let's say the early 1300s, there was a bubonic plague. There was a Black Death. 1/3 of Europe's population died. Mm-hmm. Do you know what was happening in the 1300s in Africa? Mm-mm. The Mali Empire.
This makes sense.
Mali Empire is thriving.
Yeah.
I mean, gold period.
Yeah.
But you're trying to tell me that we were eating each other, taking our feces and hitting me. Like, come on, guys.
No, of course.
A lot of stuff, I just listen and I repeat things that everybody else says because I don't want to stand out too far. I know when to jump on the scene and talk. Mm-hmm. And I know when to just be quiet and just like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Most of the time I'm just, yeah. But when I got to talk, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. So I conserve my energy. I just sit back because I don't believe 99% of what people talk about. I just say, yeah. Okay.
You're listening. Yeah. That's all you're doing is listening. Yeah. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Because you have to know when to use that and understand the worth and the power that comes with that. Yeah. You know?
It's refreshing to hear you talk like that. Because only me and some of my you sound like a Rastafari right now. You sound like you spoke like a true Rasta.
Let me tell
right
you
now.
something. You know, I did go into like in the Bible. I remember the first time I ever in college like had experienced like just this awakening, experimentally awakening, and it was like me really like, wow, the Bible's a metaphor. You're not supposed to take it literal. So there's so many beautiful lessons, and that's why I love the Bible. It's why I always come back to this strong foundation that I feel like it holds. But then learning about Rastafarian, like Rastafaris, whatever, and don't hate me, guys. I'm so sorry, but after learning the information, I can't help but share this. And there's been documentaries on Selassie, right? Haile Selassie, or however you say. He was not a good man. He treated the people like shit, right?
Like all rulers do.
He didn't even know that there was a group of people in Jamaica that were admiring him the way he did. My uncle was a little boy in the schoolyard seeing everybody and how he was just so confused of why they were like worshiping him almost, right? Because there's the story of him coming from the line of David. But there's no proof of that because all of that documentation was burned. So now it's like you have this cult. I'm so sorry I'm saying this, guys. I love all my people. Like shout out to, you know?
I know about it. I know
so,
this. Yeah.
But it still doesn't change the fact that, yes, with all of those different things, you still have the pure intention of good that is within that space. No matter how much that structure, whatever cult was created there, you still have the good people, because look at somebody like Bob Marley, right? And shout out to my fellow Aquarian Bob Marley, because I love the movie that came out. It was the courage to still stand up for what was right, even when everything was against him. And what allowed him to do that was that foundation and principle. So if it works for you, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I don't care how you get there, because we all understand that even through religion and all this segregation, there's still something that unifies us, right?
Yeah.
And so once you can come to that understanding, yes, that was his outlet that shot up what he did and where he was at, and that's great. But it wasn't, to me, more about like, okay, you have to be a Rasta, you have to do all these things. Like those practices or whatever and where they came from, sure. But understand the foundation of where you come from, because my own example was like, hey, I knew it all and this is it. And then I was like, I've been lied to.
Yep.
These people that you come here and make me a fool looking like I'm preaching for something on the side, but really that's not it. And you know what? That's probably how the psychologist on your team felt. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I know he did. I know he did. No, you could see it on his face.
Of course.
You know, when all the information came out, and you know he called me, Lance, I need to meet you right now. My coaches, most of them never
even reached out.
Never.
Of course not.
Now, and you
Pride
can see
is
it
the
on his face,
downfall.
man. You can see it on his face. And he didn't want to blame them, but I know he wanted to blame them. He wanted to tell me, but as a man, he would probably felt like a coward to be like, "Oh no, they made me do it." Right? You're a man, right? But you can see it on his face, right? And
well, energy doesn't lie, and being able to recognize that.
Yeah, there's good in the bad and the good. That's why, you know, the yin and the yang, right? You know, you have the dot in the middle.
Of course,
right?
there's each within each. They're interdependent on each other. They constantly transform within each other, and that's something. Obviously, I mean, I do Chinese medicine, so I preach and I use that as my foundation. But yeah, it's really sad, because pride really is the downfall of man. And like it's funny, because that's like the greatest sin, or one of the sins that's like, I know there's like the 7 deadly sins, right? People don't even know that didn't even come from the Bible.
Yeah, it did. I was going to say that.
It came from a group of people secluding themselves from society to see what the issue was, right? So even the knowledge of that, like one of my sayings, and I have it on my desk, is the Serenity Prayer. That was that was literally created for a political speech by Rainer Neuber, was trying to use religious thought for political influence, right? Which I love the Serenity Prayer. I love everything that it says and it believes in terms of just being able to discern. You're just asking for the discernment, right? Yeah. You're calling that and manifesting it and willing it into your life, because you have that power of your tongue, right? So this is where, like, even with like the religious space, and you know, jumping to that really quickly, where out of everything, that's where I'm putting my faith in, you know? So that's been a very interesting ride against my family sometimes. Like recently, I mean, I've been kicked out. Like I'm Joseph right now on some of my family. Like I'm like X'd out. And I would still welcome them with open arms, but until the time is right, it's like it's not much I could really do. But
if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 30.
30, so you're still young.
Very young.
Yeah, I'm 35. I got you
okay.
But
5 years is a lot.
But you've never been divorced or married, and
no.
So I've been married and divorced, so I'm probably about 50, really.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it ages you a lot.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's one of those things where, you know, pretty soon you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm just gonna shut up.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
I've learned.
You're there, okay. You're just gonna be like, I'm gonna shut up.
I've learned.
And then when they ask me, get your fucking popcorn.
Yeah.
Can I curse?
Yeah.
Get your popcorn ready, because I'm gonna put on a show for you. Right? That's literally how I am, man. Like don't ask me anything. I won't say anything. but don't ask me anything, right?
That's where everybody in my family started to learn to not ask me things because they didn't like that I would be very forward and truthful. Because the way that I got X'd out was because they asked me something, but they couldn't handle the truth. And so what did they do? They scapegoated me. And in that experience, it hurts because there's like kids at play, like it's somebody near and dear where even my own nieces and nephews recognize this and are like, where are you? Because I was such an influence in their lives. Yeah. But their parents couldn't handle some truth where now there's this tension. And it's sad.
You're talking about even after 2020, there's still tension?
There's so much tension.
They still don't believe in
this is like
really
crazy. Don't even get me on COVID. Don't even get me started.
Don't say that word. Don't say that word.
Right?
Don't say that. Don't say the C word.
Get your masks.
Listen to me.
I can't.
Listen to me. 2009, 2008, well, 2007, I almost lose my kidneys from the sickle cell. I had a crisis, right? CK levels were high. Kidneys were about to shut down. 2008, same thing happened. 2009, I say, forget doctors. I'm not going to them.
Yeah.
Haven't been diagnosed or treated for anything because I haven't been sick. Like, there's nothing wrong with me, right? 2020 comes around. I say, you taking a shot? It's like, dude, do you know last time I talked to a doctor? Like, you think I'm gonna do it right now? Like, what? Like, hold up, time out. So you mean to tell me that I got to stay in the house and I can't go outside?
Yeah.
In the sun?
Yeah.
Air?
Got me messed up.
UV rays? What?
I took my walks. I was like, you ain't holding me back.
I got shadow banned for 15 months. I was making so much money on Instagram.
Really?
Man, they shadow banned me. They really tried to take me out.
I don't understand that much of what like shadow banning is, but I guess that's where they just don't want you to.
Your views go down to almost 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. Yeah, from thousands to like 1 or 2. But it's okay. It's okay. It's one of those things where
it's political.
It's great that they did it because it put more fire into me, right? To now do this documentary, to now go and do what I got to do, right? Because I'm not lying. I'm just telling the system. I'm not against the system.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I don't do what they do. I'm not for what they're for. You can exist. We can coexist because there's people that need you. There's people who never go my path.
Of course.
Right? But to say that my path is crazy, hold up, time out. Before you guys existed, you got people like Hippocrates who are saying like, you're a fool if you're not your own doctor.
Of course.
Right?
Physician, heal thyself.
Yeah, that's actually
right?
on my shirt. Like,
be your own doctor.
Be your own doctor. Like,
well, the same thing. Physician, heal thyself. Right?
And if you don't know that,
that's crazy.
And I know we got to wrap up, right?
Yeah. What time? We're good. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Unless you gotta go, I got my whole evening.
I'm good. No, your boy, good.
Okay.
No, it's one of those things where when you venture off and you go against people's knowledge, right, and you force them to think about something that they never thought about. Now they have to go back from their inception and relive life and apply this new knowledge to every part of their life for the last 30, 35 years, right? That's hard for someone to do.
Yeah.
That's.
Dare I hold you accountable?
It's hard because it's almost like we become the information that we learn. Like it's part of us now. It's like
you can't unknow what you know. And if you go against that and you know that it resonates with good, then there's this like battle with self, like the man versus self.
Cognitive dissonance.
There you go.
Yeah. No, you'll really have a mental breakdown over cognitive dissonance. I believed in this for 100 years but now there's some information that's truer than what I believed in, and it makes sense, and it logically makes sense. Like it adds up. But my mom and grandmother loved me, and they told me this.
Yeah.
Well, your mom and grandmother were lied to too.
It's not your fault.
They were all lied to as well. Like, and it's the game. Like they say, well, you're supposed to learn this stuff at home. Well, what did the people at home learn it?
Yeah. Under whose control? Because like we already know what's up.
They say perception's reality, but who sold you the perception?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So what reality you live in? You live in somebody else's game.
Exactly.
Somebody created that board game. Now you're playing with the few pieces they gave you, but they hid those pieces, and then tell you the rules, so that now you're making these little moves where you could be making grander moves.
Of course.
But they don't want to give you that.
When I learned about dark psychology, I was like, ooh. And I mean, I've not been married and divorced, but I've been in a relationship where I felt like I was and broken up. And like, I mean, I had never experienced that level of like, I didn't eat for like 2 days, but I had to be like, Larissa, no, this is for the betterment. if you're calling it a fast and then you're getting up. And that's where I really exploded, like, after that. But I went into, like, trying to understand more, just the assessment. I understand people are compatible, people are not, but the dark psychology at play.
Talk about it, please. Then.
I did the research of it, and, like, manipulation is not necessarily a bad thing, right? If it's for the betterment or for being able to help people understand in a good way versus, like, your own selfish game. The actual word of manipulating something is, we do it all the time. Yeah, we do it every time. Yeah. But when it becomes
manipulating language right now.
Exactly. So it's like, all right, that negative connotation, but then going into, like, the intention of it, and then even seeing, like, I'm guilty of it without even being aware that I was, because of whatever conditioning I had before to get what I want, right? And just seeing how I could maybe transform the way that I went about things and vice versa, but the play that was on me. And I was like, oh, no. I'm so happy that there is this information, because now I see it, like, everywhere. Like, I was dating a guy, right? His ex-girlfriend calls me, okay? They haven't been together, whatever. This is just a funny story, but she calls me and she's like, I would never be with him. Like, you shouldn't either. And, like, giving me this whole spiel. I'm like, you know what, girl power. I get it. And I'm proud of you. Like, whatever. That girl literally flew down here talking about she would never come, anything. Yeah. So just seeing the dark psychology of, like, how girls are with each other, I'm like, what, that dark
like,
femi energy?
That sounds like a Toni Braxton song.
Oh my gosh.
That you shouldn't be with him, whatever.
I don't even know. I don't even care. I'm just, like,
in my Braxton song, right?
I'm in my own world, not expecting any of this to happen, and I was like, yo, people are really out here playing mind games. Yes. And I really have to be, that's why I'm like, I stay where I am, and I'm like, if you find out about me or hear about me, then you can, you know, gain access. That's why I'm big on the word of mouth. Like, people are like, well, how do you advertise or whatever? How have you become, you know, so good in the massage community? Like, I was actually supposed to do an NBA player right before this, right? Got called in by Pat Riley. Cool. I have that ability to gain that network, not because I advertise, but because of, again, people speaking good on it. That's where I'm like, if you're seeking, then you can find me. This is what I stand for. I'm going to uphold that, and anything else will come. But playing those games of, like, trying to get it, or, like, I've had people that are in high positions that think, like, I need them. And I'm like, no, I don't. Are you going to pay me the money or not? You think you're about to play some run game on me? No, because, like, I'm woke. Okay? So it's very interesting to see, like,
and
that
then
play.
You're in Miami.
Which is even, it's a vortex of darkness.
And you know what that game, it's like I'm bigger than you, so therefore you should do what I say.
You need me.
You need me. And it's like, come on, man. Like you walk around with that. I don't walk around that way. Like, I don't walk around and say, well, I'm this person who's done this. Most people don't even know what I did with sickle cell.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what I told you today.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Am I a good person or not? And do I mean well for the world or not? Am I doing good for people or not? Right? If I'm a millionaire, what does that mean? I just have $1 million. What am I doing something with it?
Yeah.
Am I bettering things?
You could still be miserable or a POS or anything, or you could be great and using that money for other things. It doesn't matter. But again, the way that society has kind of shifted mindset, and the people being puppeted and controlled, it's like a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. For me, you know, when I was dealing with sickle cell trait, I didn't have any money. I was in college. We weren't allowed to get paid, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I had a cousin who was in the NFL, but me and him, we weren't that close, right? He never gave me money, right? But it's funny how, you know, at 19, I was told I shouldn't play sports past 19 years old.
Wow.
But I became a professional basketball player in Spain, and then a month after I got done with playing in Spain, I was on the field with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
But the doctors were telling me, Lance, if I were you, I wouldn't play sports again, because the way your bodies work, your body utilizes the proteins and the muscle instead of the carbs. I'm like, what? I'm not a diabetic. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, you know, it's crazy, right? Because people really don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know.
I know.
And they try to tell you because they have power, position, money, like we were just saying earlier, money, status, and you need me. It's like, I really don't. I really got all the knowledge I need. Like, could it help because people know you and I can get it out there? But okay, cool. If you can't help me get this message out there, well then, Okay, great.
Yeah.
You're probably a good person or not. Like, it doesn't really matter at that point, right?
Now I'm going to go talk to the next person because I can control that. Like, it's nice to have that cherry on top of influence, or like if people do have it. But when you see people kind of trying to gatekeep,
Gatekeep,
right?
Yep.
It's like, all right, on to the next, because like this is just not what the business I'm here for. And like, whether it's you or not, I know that a person and their network, that's one person, great. They can go ahead and let that explode the way that it naturally explodes too, and how at one point you started as well.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it is something that's like annoying, and it's in the Miami culture. And I'm somebody that's not big on trying to push with that either, because I already have a sense of how people are.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is that when people with that influence want to come to me for that.
Yeah.
You know, and that speaks more lengths, because I'm like, wow, you can recognize a diamond in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I feel like for me, I have that eye. I feel I have that eye where I can see people for not necessarily what they're doing, but who they are, and then help guide them into now finding what to do with that. So anyways, is there anything else that you wanted to brush up on?
Oh man,
I know we went on so many rants and so much good information. I definitely want to have you on again, because there's so much more knowledge that, like you said, it's so refreshing. Like, being able to have a discussion with somebody that is just as woke, or has the knowledge, or has done the research, lived it, experienced it, and really embodies it, is one of the biggest blessings that I get to come across day in and day out with the network that I've been trying to create and build and tribe. So thank you so much. I'm so happy of how we met. It was so organic, but it was very divine.
Absolutely.
Very divine. And another shout out to it, yet another Jamaican, because the last 3 people I had on here, no idea that they were Jamaican. And somehow gravitating. And I do say that Jamaica is like a vortex and power hole, you know, where all your problems disappear. Yes.
We're built different, I tell you that, man.
So different.
You know, my ancestors are Maroons, so we're from the mountains, so we're just rebellious by nature, right? in a sweet way, in a nice way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll serenade you to freedom, right?
Yeah.
But no, it is what it is. But I love it. I love it. I love all the challenges of life. Nothing's out of scope. Nothing's too hard. I don't believe that. I think everything that's going to come to us is going to come to us. Whatever we get, we're going to get. I used to be in a state of scarcity, but now I'm just like, I don't care. It's going to come. Like, my story is legitimate. I was truthful. I was real. I was honest. And whenever it gets out there, it gets out there. And I hope everyone's ready for it, because I'm coming. I'm coming hard,
that
too.
scarcity mindset was programmed.
Pause. But no Diddy. But
Yeah.
but I called that.
Diddy.
Look,
Oh my gosh.
No, but I'm coming though. I'm
Yeah.
coming. I swear. My story is gonna be out there, and we're gonna try to get that on Netflix, Prime, wherever we can get it at. Whoever will accept me. If they don't, cool. I'll just promote it myself and
share your story. That's your testimony, and that's your power. It's still gonna reach the people.
Absolutely.
The internet's beautiful. Being able to just put it out there, and wherever it goes, I mean, it's going to ignite somewhere. I know that for a fact, because this is like very powerful, and you touch so many hearts of the kids that were just like you, And I'm a big believer in testimony's power. So documentary, I can't wait. Do you have a tentative date of when this is going to be out? Okay. Do you want to share with the people? Sometime
in the winter. Not a exact date, but sometime in the winter, we'll have that out. Oh man, it's been 16 years in the waiting. I told them when they removed me from the team, I was like, revenge is a dish best served cold.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I woke up every day for the last 16 years wanting this.
Yeah.
Every day. Like, I'm really like that.
I know.
Like, I don't let up.
Yeah.
Like I may be all smiles, but I don't let up.
Yeah.
I get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that's actually very encouraging, because of the path that I feel like I'm on with taking Chinese medicine, or holistic medicine and healing in America against like the AMA. Just bringing the awareness, because we know the story of like Dr. Sebi and how so many before, but now there's a little more to protect, I guess. I'm trying to figure out that way of getting in, but I do have that vision of someday being able to either have like a holistic hospital or a group or a space for people. And I know that once that seed's planting, everything will come.
Yeah.
And so with what you're doing, same idea. I mean, 16 years and you finally get to like really get, everything's with time, but all good things.
Well, I tell you what, this is just a suggestion for you, for the AMA. Just pitch to them. When you go to a grocery store, you have the organic.
That's all it is. I'm like, I just need to get in the room with this person.
Just give them the option. That's it. Like, most people will go that way, though. So you guys are never gonna lose. In the background, you're never gonna lose.
I'm like, how about we just like revamp the whole system really quickly, and everybody just like, hey guy, I mean, look at what's the guy Fauci with his mask thing. It's like, bro, everything is a joke after joke after joke. Why can't we just set this system and people up for success? It's a conversation. You want to make money? Here's a system and structure. Use these holistic practices and allow everybody to thrive. You're still going to make your money because people still need that service. You still can have people licensed. Like, it's just like, we're in a different time. There's so much more consciousness and awareness and knowledge and information. So use that to your advantage. Just do good.
They got to fess up, because they're gonna rebel eventually, because you can't be so blatant about it. Like, this isn't a karma you can escape. You know how people say, if you tell people what you're doing, they can escape the karma of it. No. You can't. No, this is not it. Like, people are gonna. It's gonna get to a tipping point where people are gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, they lied about this, that, third. I'd much rather die. And then when they get to that point, good luck. And then you won't make no money.
Yeah.
You're not gonna make any money.
Exactly.
Good luck. Like, people are gonna go so far against it, and that's gonna be the crumbling. It's gonna come down and jump ahead of it now. But this is not a warning or a threat or anything. Like, but I am playing my part. You're playing your part, and we're on the same team.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm gonna do my thing. No one's stopping me. I mean, don't
remember,
care.
cycles of everything, right? That group of people that were so far into this medical system.
Yeah.
We have a new age coming in where there is a lot of awareness. Now, they're doing some freaky stuff in terms of, like, I don't know, identity crisis or whatever is going on. But for the majority, all of this information that's accessible and people are, like, making sense of it, eventually that stuff's going to die out. So it's either you're going to, like, keep up and do what's right, or, again, fall.
Yeah.
Like every great empire has.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So, again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all for listening to Lotus Talks. Until next time, we are over and out. Bye.